Hello everyone, we're back here on Gelvin Valley. We are almost done with our field ripping, and according to what I just saw, I got 38 minutes to get the job done, so whoops, I better get in and do it. I think this is let me just check real quick. I think this is our last field. You all are probably sick of watching me do this. So yeah, that appears right. All of them, we had wheat in it, right? So the only one that has wheat in it is number 3, and I think that's the one we're in at the moment. So we are just gonna squeak in under the time limit for rental of this little ripper. And then we'll have the tedium of dealing with the rocks. I got something I want to show everybody once I get this field done on how we're going to deal with some of those rocks. I assume I still have it on. Are you kidding me? Oh, this thing always turns off my automatic help. I don't know why it does that. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. I think I still had, yep, it's still rock digging of 3. I'll hide that. Oh, this corner's kind of a pinch. You know, for some of this, I suppose I could attempt to hire the help to do this, but I don't know about you. That's always been a challenge when there are fields shaped like this. It just isn't conducive to turning on the old hired help. Although I do have auto tractor in here, I don't think it works as well, even going around and around. Not near as well as auto combines. So I think I'll just keep commandeering the tillage work. Yeah, that was a dandy rock I saw over there, but I think that's like one of the only ones in this field. Trying to remember some of the tillage work I've done years ago on the farm. It seems like we did a lot of disking on Lone Oak too. If it had a hard pan kind of under the surface of the soil, they typically would bring in about something similar, to what we're pulling right here, where they would sink the shanks and try to break up the hard pan, to get rid of the compaction. But there was a lot of disking I remember doing back in the day, just going over and over the field several times to chop up the old sod. And fortunately it wasn't something we had to do every year, grass being perennial and whatnot. But when we did, it was a doozy sometimes to get rid of all the old bits of sod so you could plant something else. I think this is our 3rd round. We try to cut this. There's another rock. If that cuts much off or not, dig out the good old trusty GPS. Yeah, that's certainly something we didn't have. Man, I came back up. It's like it's too late at night when I'm attempting to do this episode. We never had GPS, so I always had to look across the field, and it was a matter of pride as to how straight you could keep your rows. just didn't want to pick a moving target. I'm thinking back on the past two episodes. I gotta say, it was more fun than I cared to admit almost to think back on all the tickets I've received. I'm kind of curious once this all airs to see if anybody else is kind enough to talk about all their own infractions. At least I would say it's confined to what happens in the car. Um, Maybe that's where most of us, I don't know if this is the right term, most of us normal people, if you will, where we would tend to run afoul of the law, maybe, versus doing all sorts of out and out crime. Hopefully there's nobody like that that's had those experiences. Whoa! I think I dragging that little rock. There was a rock there, and I almost think it disappeared. Hmm. Only I don't think it was supposed to disappear. I tried to build something as protection into the script because these are 3D objects, and we're right here, we're on the surface, of the map, of course. But anybody that's played this before, I mean, you occasionally will get glimpses of what is on the underside of the map, which, of course, is flat out nothing. It isn't a thick earth, kind of like we're used to. There's literally nothing. So if you have a 3D object that somehow sneaks below the layer of the map, it's gonna fall forever. And if those objects get saved, then they'll load back up in whatever position they are way below the map, and you'll start your session and they'll just keep falling. So right now, that little rock that we ran over with the chisel plow, it's falling. I would bet money that it's down there. I can't prove it because I can't go under there to look at it. But I would bet it's falling, 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 and will continue to do so. But kind of like I said, I built a little bit of protection into the script so that when it saves and when it loads, I think it's in both places. I'm not sure. I don't think it needs to be in both places, or it's totally necessary. But it's designed so that upon load or upon save, if the particular rock object happens to be below the level of the map I think it's by a meter, if it's below the map by a meter, then it just doesn't save that particular rock. And conversely, upon load, if it's, for whatever reason, if it fell through the cracks and it's noted to be below the level of the map, it doesn't even load it. It just gets out of it. So hopefully by doing that, we kind of have a way to handle the trash, if you will. So the last thing you want to do, I mean, these are all 3D object decks with collisions, so the more of them you have, it's kind of like the Giants have said, or put limits sometimes on the number of bales you can put into the map. There's limits on the number of trees you can plant. And a lot of the reason for this is it's one more hard object with collisions, one more physics problem, if you will. So that's kind of why we don't want a whole bunch of rocks accumulating below the map that just continuously fall. I don't know that it particularly would cause problems, but it definitely would take more computing power. So if that happens, we just say good riddance and don't load them or save them. Here we are, guys, last pass, and we are done. Imagine we have a tired tractor. that is gonna be that. I am glad to have that done and to be able to take. Actually, I don't think I can need to take it back. Literally, I think I can just press a key or go into the equipment menu and I can turn it back just at the press of a button. And even with as long as that took, you know, you look at the time here, and I can't remember if we started the day doing this and we've been doing it all day. I don't think it's been that long. I almost think we started hauling bales this particular day. But even with as many fields as we have and as varied as they are, you know, you still see we were able to cover the whole farm, you know, in a single day and game. And I gotta say, you look at the map here, you can just kind of see on here, it kind of looks like a bunch of zits. I guess we'll call it zits all over the map of all these rocks. I have another script that highlights, well, actually, it isn't another script. You know, I had that one on bales to where you could see all the bales in here too. But in the rocks on mod, I added a feature to show the hotspot, and I think I added that in Farm Sim 17. So just so we could see all this stuff, I added it also to the 15 version so we could see where they are and make sure we get them all collected. I don't think placement of them is perfect. You know, it sure seems like some of these are off the field area, but it could be kind of how this map is drawn too. That I don't know. Be that as it may, let me put the map back down. We are gonna turn our chisel plow or ripper, whatever you want to call it. We're gonna return it. We are done with it. They'll charge us $100 to clean it. We haven't even cleaned our own equipment. I'm too much of a cheapskate to get a pressure washer. But now, what I think we'll do, and I'm going to need to go to the store anyhow, so I'm just going to drive up there. And maybe I can get, well, I'll probably start up there with a roller. I'm going to go lease a roller, a special kind of roller, and I know I've mentioned it before. Oops, I have my hazards on and my beacons as I drive down the road. I'm going to pick up a field roller. We're going to roll every single field that we just plowed, and the roller is going to leave in its wake kind of the cultivator texture, which it wouldn't do in real life, of course. You know, it'd be a different texture being rolled, but we don't have that option in game, and so that's kind of how this roller came, or it's a particular mod that I'm using, and then I put a script on it to deal with rocks. And yeah, I don't know, with a little bit of tinkering, it's something maybe I'll eventually bring to later versions of Farming Sim. But there may be a better way to code it than the way I chose to do it. That's one thing I've learned about Lua coding or modding really of any kind, is there oftentimes are a number of different ways to get at the problem or issue or whatever you're trying to mod. And the question is maybe which one is most familiar to you in terms of one of those ways, which one is maybe the easiest, most efficient, and when it comes to most efficient, I'm definitely not your guy. That's probably for sure. I just feel ecstatic at those times when there's something I want to do and I can actually get it to work, you know, in game by pretty much any means. I'm just happy if it works, even if it isn't the most efficient or the best possible way to do it. So we're going to head up here and I'm going to go get a roller. I'm trying to remember for the chisel plow, was it 4 hours that I leased it? Well, there's that right there. That tells me right away that we didn't chisel plow the whole day. We definitely were doing it for several hours. So I think this is a little bit wider, the roller, if I'm not mistaken. So, but you know what? In 4 hours, it's gonna be dark, dark, dark. So, you know what? I think I'm gonna park this machine right here, and we are gonna just fast forward into tomorrow. And I don't think life of loan was expired. Please pay back. Oh dear. Oh no. Um, yeah. Well, here's the situation. I'm 350 in debt. The life of the loan. Ah, I can't pay it back. So, loan details, edit loan. You know, this is interesting. I don't think I've had it before where it's literally told me that the period of the loan is expired. Yeah, I see that up here now. Life of loan was 7 days. The overdraft period is 2 days. And oh, that means my interest rate bumps from 6 to 10%. Oh man. Hmm. My goodness. I'm going to get raked over the coals with interest. Yeah, this is all fine and dandy, but I think I'm seeing that things are going to be harder on me than what I was thinking. I might go broke. My goodness. Well, this is going to shorten the series. Maybe that's what people want to have happen. I don't know. Anyways, I need to continue fast forwarding. I don't know if it'll look at that. Math, the money just keeps. All right, it's 5 a.m. I'm 5 grand in the hole. But you know what? I've been in the hole before. I have. I know I have some. Let me see what prices are doing. Oops, I must be going the wrong way. Let me get to what I have in storage. I have this much wheat, and let me see what prices are doing. Pheasant pluckers, 191. Yeah, I think thought that was up a little bit. It says my prices are going down, so ah, now I got this bum loan hanging over my head. But anyway, this is too close to realism for almost for my liking. So we're gonna come into here, and yeah, this is a mods. Where would I have put? Probably in cultivators. Maybe here it is. All right, I'm gonna rent this Lametris. I think that's, I don't know how you would say that. 8 meters. I'm going to rent it. We're going to try 4 hours. I think it'll let me take it. Okay. Oh, how nice. Early morning, in the hole by a long shot. Work to be done. Let me at least get it hooked up here. I wanted to, and again, I never know what people are going to be interested in. Let me save that at least before, let me get to here. I think this will pause it, right? So I'm gonna come out to here and show you this. Here's what I did to this particular roller. We now have it in game. I at least wanted to show kind of what I did. I put these, oh, that's kind of moving too quickly. But I put these little trigger boxes right on the edge of the roller. And this is kind of what I was saying before about having a modding problem and figuring out a way to deal with it. So I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but basically a trigger is something that the game pays attention to, that when something enters a trigger or leaves a trigger, it does something in the code so that you know to do something else. Well, in this case here, if a rock enters this trigger, the code then says, okay, is it a big rock or is it a little rock? And if it's a little rock, then it knows that the rock is to disappear, presumably because these big rollers here have pounded it back into the earth. If it is deemed to be a big rock, then these rollers, just like in real life, wouldn't be able to pound it into the soil, and we're still going to need to come through here and pick those up by hand. So that's kind of what it is. I'm not showing it here, but there's 3 rollers on this. And so I have a trigger on each of the rollers. And this was after a bunch of experimentation. Um, I put this thing really close to the rollers. I'm not sure if there's collisions on those rollers or not. I'd have to, let me see if I can put on there. Is there, no, see, there's no collisions on it. It's just a shape. So if there's a big rock, it's probably going to just pass right through, or it will get hung up on this. I think there is a collision here somewhere. Well, no, that isn't a rigid body either. I see that here. So, but I think I have seen before where, well, it's probably the overall collisions on the machine as a whole. Yeah, see, there's this big old box here. So the big rocks will hit this box and they won't even go under, but the little ones will pass kind of underneath. So they will hit the trigger. So it's just one of those things, the mod author, whoever it was, set it up a certain way, and I kind of came in and added something to it. And then, of course, wherever those are, let me see if I can locate it again. Yeah, rock roller, I think I called it. Um, there's an index here, which is then, I don't know that I even loaded the XML. Maybe I should do that real quick just to show a little modding wise, what to do. I'm pretty sure I would have added somewhere in here for the rock stuff that I did. Moving tools. Here we go. So I added a section to the XML, and you can put a lot of things in here. I mean, this is kind of the reason this stuff is in here, if you ever work with mods, is it points to a particular index on the mod itself. So, remember these triggers that I mentioned? Well, these are the indices of those rock roller triggers. So if we go back in here, this particular index, that's this for this trigger, that's what's there. And by the way, to set up a trigger, you had to call it it's kinematic because you want things to interact with it and it moves with the dynamic object. It's impacted by something else. It's labeled as a trigger. We had to put a collision mask in here. This means number 12 and number 24. I think number 12 is dynamic objects. Number 24, I can't remember what that is, but basically you want this to interact and be coded the same as the rock objects are, so that it only deals with rock objects. Anything else it will just ignore. So we had to put the add in there too. So, but the index on this is 020515. So if we go back to our XML, it's going to show 020515. This is the index of the particular trigger. And so why does that matter? Well, then the script that I wrote will call up these indices and say, treat whatever's at this index as a trigger. So I got the script here. I'm not going to go through all of it here. Goodness, I don't want to bore everybody. But see, this is on load. So what is it going to do on load? Well, one thing it really wants to know is where are the triggers. So it's going to look those up in the XML file. It's going to call up the XML file. That's this thing here that we just looked at. And then it's going to go look for vehicle rock roller. That's the exact section that we had it in down here. And then it's going to look for trigger. And so this kind of, it's this while true, this is kind of a loop. And as long as it's true, it starts at 0 and it'll look through the triggers in there, and we could put 50 of them in there if we wanted, and it would load every single one of them. But on this particular mod, it's only the 3 that are in there, but it's going to load each of the 3 in turn. It's going to look specifically for the index, and then on each index, it's going to add a trigger. And then later, anytime you have a trigger in a mod, you need a trigger callback. So this identifies a callback, and we define the callback down here. If something enters it, what do you do? So if something enters it and it's an other actor ID, meaning it's an object or rock or something that comes in there, well, what do we do with it? So, it's going to play a sound, it's going to delete the object, it's going to do all these things. It really isn't very complicated, and I never really fully finished it. But it works. It works enough for my purposes, and that's, of course, good enough. And I made it play a sound just for kicks. I think it'll work in multiplayer too. Not that that mattered, but I had sounds added to Rock Spawn, when I did it again in Farm Sim 17. And I don't have it on 15, but when I made this roller, for whatever reason, I decided let the player hear the sound of when the rock hits the roller, kind of like you would in real life. You would hear that sound, even in a full-on cab of a tractor, a lot of times you hear the interaction of your machine with the rock. So to make it simple, I put a single sound in there. And it's kind of funny as I look at this. This is kind of the source, and that's how they named the file. But it isn't the sound of a rock on metal at all. Rather, what it is, it's an industrial metal rake hitting the ground. So when we use it in game here, you'll hear kind of what that sounds like. But there is sound embedded in here too. So load sample during the load process, you got to load whatever that sound is, and then later you tell it to use it. Here we delete the rock, so you're going to hit one, you need to hear it. So you got to tell the code when to play it, how to play it. So it's playing the sample down here, and I think it loops once and turns off and blah blah blah. I can see probably everybody's eyes are glazing over. But I guess I just share that with the view that maybe somebody out there wants to learn how to mod a little bit or to see kind of how some of these are. And it's a good idea, even if you don't know a shred of Lua text, look at it anyways. If you're making a mod or looking to see what capabilities that the Giants' own scripts have, you can look at it and take pay specific attention to the load area. Because oftentimes if you come in here, you can study this and you'll see what kinds of things it's looking for, and you'll see where it's looking for it. So anybody, if you come in here and you see vehicle rock roller trigger, you should be able to come here and you can go clear to the top. Here's vehicle, and then you look for rock roller, like we were just seeing. There's rock roller, and here's trigger. And then when you look at it again, it's looking for this index section. Well, there's index, and here's the indices. So this is how most specialization scripts are set up. I say most, it's really all of them. This is how they identify what's in there. And a lot of times there are other functionality, that it would have. If you just look in there to see it, it may not be activated, but to know what's available, you kind of need to be able to look at the script. And like I say, it just takes just a little intuition as you look at it and read and know that when you see areas like this, it's telling you where to find it and that kind of thing. So just thought I would encourage everybody with that. So without further blarney, let me go back in game and go put this thing to work. It's early morning. Once again, we are out of money. Oh, story of my life. Gelvin Valley is going to be the farm that bankrupts me and embarrasses the stuffing out of me, I'm afraid. Maybe what I need to do is quit arable farming. I think the map author even identifies in his map language or whatever that it's intended, not really intended to be an arable region, but that's kind of what I'm used to. So, something I want to fix on this, you'll notice it still has rock digging, and that's because it has the cultivator specialization attached. Um, and anytime something has a cultivator specialization, it's going to dig up rocks. But obviously, we don't want to do that with a roller, it would never dig up a rock. So, I'm going to turn that part off. Rock digging is off, so I always got to remember to do that. We'll get going here, we'll lower it. Here we go. And like I said, it kind of looks, man alive, it feels like it's falling hard. Didn't it seem like we did the chisel plow and it went faster? I don't know, maybe we need a stronger tractor. Only we could afford one. Trying to look on the map. I think up ahead we have some rocks. We'll see if we can get this. Yeah, that one out to the right out there, that's a little bit bigger. Yeah, it's never going to pound that one into the soil. Wow, this thing is pulling hard. I don't know if I have an underpowered tractor for this. I don't recall last time when I did this, and it isn't highly damaged, which seems to be to slow the tractors down sometime. But doesn't seem to be that in this case. There's our first tiny little rock. We'll see if this works. Let's listen for the... Actually, I gotta back up a little bit. Make sure I get all of the field. Hear them tink. Hear that? There it went. So, and our rock is no longer in the field, so... Oh, that's music to my ears. And man, was it a lot of work to figure out how to do that too. Sometimes I wonder if it's crazy. We all know we're playing a game. I mean, shoot, I look at this. The chisel plow should have ripped up those weeds, and it didn't. So we kind of have to suspend reality in our minds, knowing it isn't going to do everything perfectly or whatever. But, and yet, then we'll build something in like that little tink. Oh, that just makes me feel good. One less rock I don't have to pick up. Here's another one, another tink coming. Ah, sweet music. Now, I gotta say, as someone that tinkers with scripts or mods or what have you, and I'm not a big-time modder or anything, goodness no. I've just, all I've ever done is just kind of tinker at it. But, and maybe that's why we do it, is, if you have, maybe it's a guy thing, you like fixing problems or figuring things out, and oh, there's been so many times I've worked on a script, and what I hate doing sometimes is going to bed without figuring out a problem. It seems like it's usually late at night when I work on these things and trying to figure it out, and because a lot of times if I go to bed and I haven't figured it out, I stew on it and it makes my sleep restless, and yeah, I know that probably makes me sick in the head, but it's true. And so sometimes it's nice when you can have that little victory that it works before you move on to something else. But it doesn't always happen. I know people would probably think I'd go crazy if they could see me when I'm working on this stuff, and when it finally works. I'm in here, I'm not making a sound, well sometimes I do, but pounding the air with my fist, and it just makes me feel good, when it finally does, what I want it to do. I just made a couple videos here the other day modding another map, adding some mission stuff to it, and I had some things that weren't cooperating on it, and finally they did. I was very thankful for that. Yeah, see that rock there I think is too big, so although let me lift it and put it down on it, see if it doesn't. Nope, yeah, that rock is too big. Can't pound all of them, but we are going to get this other little tiny one, so we'll have to come back for him and pick it up by hand. There goes another one. Sweet music. Anyway, I think I'm totally at the end of my half hour, probably over by too much. I'm going to leave her there. Thanks for coming along for the ride as we start rolling our fields and taking care of the rocks. Bye-bye for now, and we'll talk to you again soon. God bless you.